Hello, good morning. It's about 9:15 on Saturday the 29th of April, and I'm just heading out for about a 70-mile ride from my hometown of Bath up to the Purton ship's graveyard. That's on the banks of the River Severn, and it's where I spent day 2 of my recent camping trip. I was going to add that visit to the end of that video, but I just thought there was too much on that video, and also I really wanted to come back and explore it with more time. So that's what today's about. And plus, on the way back, I'm going to visit some bluebells in Micheal Wood. It's one of the best places, I think, in the West Country to see them. Whether they're at their best yet or not, I don't know. There's one way to find out, isn't there? It's a lovely sunny day now after a cold, misty start. So that's what's on the menu for today. Anyway, next stop, the Gloucester-Sharpness Canal on the banks of the Severn estuary. I'll see you there. I'm 41 miles in, I'm approaching my destination. I've just passed through the Gloucestershire village of Berkeley, famous for its castle. And it's also got the Edward Jenner Museum there, well worth a look round. Edward Jenner is the guy who discovered vaccines. Anyway, I've parked myself on this seat. My normal one's been occupied by other people today. This is quite nice outside this church. I stopped here for a couple of reasons. I've just picked up that from a co-op. I've got plenty of food at home. There's a purpose for that, and I'll explain that at the end of the video. That means I've got a little bit more weight to drag round. I've also bought myself an apple Danish, so I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes and enjoy that. 2 weeks ago, towards the end of that last video, my camping video, I visited today's destination, Purton. It's actually on the Gloucester-Sharpness Canal. So just a quick bit of context before we get there for people who are unfamiliar with the area. The River Severn becomes very muddy as it narrows. I believe the Gloucester-Sharpness Canal was built so trade could travel up that canal and not be reliant on the silting and Mersey at the tides. But I guess these days with road transport it's just become obsolete. Nowadays it's still well preserved, but it's a leisure canal. It runs up from Sharpness about 10-15 miles up to Gloucester Docks, and it's running parallel to the River Severn, very close inland. In fact, at this one place, Purton, the reason for the ship's graveyard is they had to protect against erosion. There's a very thin strip of land between the Severn, which has got a very high tidal range, and the canal. It was realised in the early 1900s that if you were to ram obsolete boats into the bank and then just open up all their floodgates and let them silt up, they would build up to become a natural barrier. And I believe between 1909 and 1965, so quite a considerable stretch of time, that's what happened. So there's all these ex-boats along there. In effect, it's recycling, isn't it? And it's naturising it. And it's quite impressive when you get there, because when you first get there I was expecting all spines, you know, of old wooden vessels, you know, you sometimes see on beaches, but these weren't. You just suddenly thought, oh, hang on a second, that's got the shape of a boat, but it's got grass all over it, and you suddenly realise it is an old barge that's been rammed into the coast. So that's what we're going to look at next. It's worth putting the Severn into some sort of context, because if you imagine the Atlantic Ocean from the Americas ramming into Scandinavia, Europe and Africa, which includes the UK, it's just going to force up into river inlets. And if you can picture North Cornwall and South Wales as those lands begin to narrow, it's in effect water being pushed into a funnel. If you were to imagine a funnel with this open end on the left hand side, and then all that water being forced into it and it gradually narrowing, that's exactly what happens. The Atlantic Ocean becomes the Bristol Channel, then at some stage it becomes the Severn estuary, then eventually it becomes the River Severn. I read that it's got the second highest tidal range in the world. There's 50 feet between low tide and high tide at the extremes. So, you know, imagine the average house is what, about 25 feet? So you can begin to sort of grasp it, can't you? The difference between low tide and extreme high tides is like 2 houses. And that's a lot of water, and it's got to go somewhere, and quite often it does. It just spills over onto the land and erodes the coastlines. That's the reason these barges were rammed into the coast at that particular stage, to build up a natural barrier, and it's quite a spectacle to behold. Here we are at one of the swing bridges on the Gloucester-Sharpness Canal. So Gloucester's up that way 10 or 12 miles. Most of these swing bridges have manned little cabins, and I just heard a radio conversation going on there saying somebody was about 20 minutes away. So, oh yeah, look, there's the other bridge being taken, swung in, so I think I need to get off this one actually. Here we go. What was I saying? Just about to start swinging the bridge. Anyway, along there to where that white van is, green shed and the houses, and that'll be the Purton ship's graveyard. Just past that row of houses on the canal bank, you get to this stretch. I'm looking right over at the A48 and that railway line. That was the one I was talking about on that camping trip. I really want to take a journey on that at some point. That was a magic memory from that camping trip. I kept seeing that go by in the dark. Well, I could hear it, and then you just see the lights appearing, disappearing as it passed through trees and cuttings. Look at that amazing bit of rock face down there. Oh, it's just emerged from some trees. And then running along the top of that ridge there, be Marguerite's 60A. I followed that train all the way up that day I rode that. This is the ship's graveyard anyway. So I've come along there. That boat that came through the locks just passed, gave me a wave. They've just moored in there. I imagine they're probably coming through exactly the same place. So the point of reference is this steel gridded bridge, bit of an overflow into the Severn here. You can see how muddy it is, and then there's a footpath going off to the right. You really get a feel for the Severn here. There's that thin waterway up there. You can see why that's so difficult for old trading ships to navigate at low tide. At low tide, all these mud banks, all these pools there which make it very dangerous. You can see all the ballast they put down there and wire netting and letting the reeds and grass grow over it. I did film last time I was here on day 2 of that camping trip, but a lot of people chatted to me, and you know, I tried to be sociable, and it just made filming difficult. Plus the fact I was just trying to experience the novelty of this without wanting to spill out too many facts and figures. I was just wowed by it, to be honest. I wasn't really sure what to expect. Today so far is a lot quieter and the weather's nicer, and at the moment I seem to have got the place to myself. It's a little tourist information board here. It says it's the Purton ship's graveyard, and it says it's a site of historic importance and a site of special scientific interest. And it goes on, the banks of the River Severn have historically suffered from erosion by the tide. Between 1909 and 1965, redundant and unwanted vessels were beached on the foreshore and are led to fill with silt. These formed a barrier and helped prevent the river eroding into the canal embankment. You can pretty see why that canal there was so vulnerable. It looks quite tame today on a nice sunny spring day, especially with the tide out, but I'd imagine this is very, very liable to coastal erosion. And there's that tower down there. Let's head for that and I'll show you what's on that. Down underneath the shade of the tree, you can see it's very hazy today, but there's a monument erected by British Waterways. It says the final resting place, and these are all the boats, I'd imagine, that were beached here, and it's their graveyard. In the middle it says the final journey for numerous barges, schooners, ketches and concrete lighters was to be beached on the banks of the River Severn, where they lie in a boat graveyard which protects the canal from the erosive power of the river. Says it much better than I can describe it. And now there's a train going down in the opposite direction. That was very busy, that railway, that evening when I was camping, and it just made me really want to go over and take a trip on that up to Lindley. I came here a couple of weeks ago for the first time, so I'm not sure what to expect. I was half expecting like the spines or the carcasses of old wooden boats, and I suddenly thought, oh gosh, there's a boat there, and this is what it's like. This is one of them. You can see where it's just been all silted over. There's another one down there. There. They go all along here. Well as this wonderful view and all these barges and just looking out over the estuary, there's another point of interest here, and it's connected with the tragedy and sadness really. There was a railway bridge across here right up until the 1960s, and I believe it was a railway connection that was built before the Severn Tunnel. I think I'm right in saying originally it went out to a pier mid-estuary. Passengers would alight, get on a ferry, go across, disembark and get on a train the other side. And when the Severn Tunnel was opened, the railway company realised that passengers didn't really like splitting their journey like that, so they built a bridge, but I don't think it ever really competed with the Severn Tunnel because that was almost seamless. On one foggy night in 1960, 2 tankers crashed into it, and I think there was a blaze and a lot of people were killed, and so there's a monument here. The bridge was damaged beyond being safe really, and so it was eventually dismantled, and there's a plaque here to commemorate that. I've just heard one of a group of walkers say this stone is actually part of the foundation from the original bridge, and he's pointing out there was a load of others over there where the tree starts going up the hill. I imagine he's talking about over there. And also that, if I can zoom in on it, is the wreck, what's left of one of those original tankers. Again, I was just overhearing someone else's conversation, so sometimes a big group arriving is quite nice. I love learning new things. I'm a little bit sketchy on the history. It's one of those trips that I didn't really want to read up too much. I just wanted to come and enjoy the awe, and so I knew about that plaque there. I'd seen it last time, so as usual I'll drop a few links to the railway and the accident in the description below. I'm heading back home now, so I retraced back that bridge. That's where I came in on, and then I've carried along canal a little bit further, a few hundred yards. I'm going to leave on this one here. Look at these wonderful buildings down there, almost like a Grecian Roman temple. You can see in the far distance, that's actually on the other side of the Severn, all the rolling hills of the Forest of Dean. They're never far away. So yeah, now, lovely afternoon, had my lunch. I'm going to have a nice amble up to Micheal Wood, the lovely little Avon Valley, and I'm going to go and have a look at the bluebells there and share them with you. Just crossed the canal by that bridge, about to turn up to the right. I saw, oh, that looks a rather nice church. It says church open, St John the Evangelist. I'm doing okay for time, it just looks a little bit quirky, and it is open, I've just checked, so I'm going to go in, we'll see what it's like. Semi-dark, pastel yellow walls, lovely wooden roof structure. Look, there's a bird up there flying. Is that a swallow? No, we saw it. Wow, look at those stained glass windows. Lovely musty smell, all the polished wood. Wow, amazing bit of woodwork. Yellowy, blue and purpley mauve windows. Where's that bird? It doesn't stay still long enough for me to recognise what it is. Wow, this is nice. I think a camera would do that better justice. I'm pretty sure that's a swallow, it's got that V-tail. You know what they say about seeing the first swallow of spring. I just can't keep up with it, it's flying so quick. Hopefully the photographs have done it a bit more justice. You can see all the light coming in, reflecting those glorious colours on the wall of the window. Oh, I'm so glad I've just stopped here for a few minutes. I don't know what to do about that bird. I think what I might do is go outside from a distance and leave the door open 2 or 3 minutes and then come back and close it before I leave, just in case it is trying to get out. See what happens. There's one flying around outside. I think it's probably looking for its mate. Come on, little bird, find your way out. I've just retraced back to the A38 and joined it very briefly. In effect, I crossed it at staggered crossroads. So that's it running from southwest Bristol up to Gloucester. Now I'm taking this B road, heading up to Micheal Wood. That's all the woods up through there. Be turning off on some quiet roads very shortly. I'm now at my second of the 2 points of interest today. This little bit of paradise is the Little River Avon, and it's bang slap in the middle of Micheal Wood. It's my bike on a bridge crossing over the brook there. If you're not familiar with the area, the name Micheal Wood may ring a bell. It's probably better known for the M5 services, and believe it or not, you're just the other side of this stunning wood. You can see all the wild garlic starting to come out. It smells nice. I've been seeing fields and seas of rape this morning, those yellow blankets and all the aroma coming off that. I love that. I know it's not to everybody's taste, but I personally love it. But the reason I've come here, because this is one of my favourite 2 places in the area to see bluebells. The other one is approaching the highest elevation of the Fossway. I don't know if they're going to be at their best, but there's only one way to find out. I'm going to walk up the roads there. Bluebells actually are a protected plant. You mustn't pick them, and I don't go anywhere near them. but it's a bit like Salisbury Cathedral or York Minster. Sometimes these sort of things are better from a distance. Anyway, I'm going to wander up there and see if they're at their splendid best. That way. I'm about a mile from where I spoke to you before. That's just the top ridge of Micheal Wood over there. You can still hear the roar of the M5. It's amazing. I think just the other side of that bit of paradise, there's a concrete slab running from Exeter many miles that way up to Carlisle. Well, Birmingham, I suppose, the M5 where it joins the M6. This is St Leonard's Church, Tortworth. Not going to go in there today. It's a lovely day now. I was going to do this ride yesterday. To be honest, I just woke up, looked out the window, thought, oh, I don't fancy that. Which is quite rare for me. Normally I just get myself out and go out regardless. But I'm glad I did wait till today, because it's a much nicer day. It was strong wind yesterday, and that can quite often make a ride unpleasant. There's hardly any wind whatsoever today. Anyway, about the Chillicothe, I've been talking about the last few videos saying I'm going to go off and do some tramping. Well, I am. Next week it's booked, next Tuesday, so I'm on my way. So the next video definitely will be the tramping. So the plan is to get an early morning train from my home Bath, my local railway station, Oldfield Park, up to Worcester Parkway. I've got to change at Gloucester, and I've had to book my bike onto a train just for the 2 or 3 stops between Gloucester and Worcester Parkway. I'll explain on the next video how I booked the bike onto the train using my phone. It was just a chance conversation I had with someone. I didn't even realise you could do that. And then I'll be riding westwards along the borders, visiting 2 thankful villages, the villages where everybody returned alive from the First World War, and then skirting down south, and I'm staying at a church, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a 13th century church all to myself, and the location is supposed to be stunning. It's on a bend in the River Wye, so I'm really looking forward to that. The next morning I'll just leisurely ride about 20 miles back over to Ashchurch and Tewkesbury station, a couple of stops down the line, Yates, then get off and ride back to Bath from there. So if you've been wondering during this video why I bought that can of chilli, our local co-op was knocked down a couple of years ago, and it's been converted into a co-op mini store, which is not going to open for another year or so, and some accommodation. In my local shopping street, literally the next street, we've got a Micheal's and a Sainsbury's, but the tins of curry and chili con carne, it's inflation, I guess. They just got up about £3 or £4. I just thought, I'm not paying that. I know if I could find a co-op, I'll probably get one cheaper. And lo and behold, I knew there was one today at Barclays, so hence getting that tin of chili con carne. I could have bought it on the road on Tuesday, but there's always that danger I'll forget, and I don't want to get to a remote church hungry with no food. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Hope you've enjoyed coming along with me. Hope you've enjoyed the 2 points of interest. Next, look out for each other, everybody. Next video up will hopefully be quite soon after this, towards the end of next week, and it'll be my spring mini tour, 2 thankful villages and the tramping. Bye for now.